Hello everyone, and welcome to DC Talks. I am your host, Drew Kreisman. With me is my brother, Ira Kreisman, and we are continuing down this path of nostalgia where we are going to rewatch and review and comment on some of our favorite movies from when we were kids. For now, we are leaving behind the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles saga. We may return to it in the future. We'll see where all of this takes us. But for now, we had to do The Mighty Ducks. It was just one of the next ones on the list. Again, one of these flicks that we watched a ton as kids, that the cadence is very much like music and rhythms to us. So much of it is just ingrained in our minds, things that you go, oh man, I've been quoting that for years and had forgotten that it was even from this, right? All of those kinds of things. And so really excited for this one. And again, we'll see if we end up doing D2, which I love. And even the third one is underrated. But for now, let's talk about the original classic, The Mighty Ducks. Definite article. So The Mighty Ducks was released in 1992, directed by Stephen Herrick and written by Stephen Brill. So a couple of Stevens. They spell it differently. I'll let you guess which one spells it which way. It stars Emilio Estevez primarily and a bunch of middle school-aged children, one of whom, Josh Jackson, actually continued to act and isn't super famous, but would go on and be in several things. And oddly enough, the younger Hall brother, Terry Hall, is played by Jussie Smollett, who is famous for completely different reasons other than acting now. That whole weird... So yeah, Jussie Smollett is in this movie as a small child, which is just kind of wild, given what a weird thing he became culturally famous for. One last production note that I did want to note here, and I didn't know this name before doing this project, but I've always loved the music in The Mighty Ducks. It's really, really good. It's arguably overly dramatic, but in all the best ways possible. And David Newman is the composer. I don't know that name for much of anything else, but there's really good music, and I'll point out once or twice how much I enjoy certain musical cues.
Yeah, that main hero theme throughout this movie is really quite good, and I thought it was used to good effect in the new TV show, what do they call it, Game Changers?
Right, we'll mention that a couple of times as well. We both really loved that show.
So the movie starts with a black screen, and it puts up the credits in bright blue, because remember, credits used to run before the movie showed.
Right.
And it's got this real intense music, and then you hear the announcer. The Minnesota Pee Wee Championship is up for grabs. Both teams playing like there's no tomorrow. Duluth in the Huck Zone, looking for a chance to win it. Only a few seconds remain. There's a pass out to the blue line. Intercepted by Gordon Bombay. Bombay, he's got a breakaway across the blue line, all alone for a chance to win the game. He's pulled down from behind by Fox of Duluth. Fox definitely pulled him down from behind, and this could be... Yes, the referee calls for a penalty shot. And Drew, why in the world would Little League hockey be this intense? Like, they've got an announcer? Is this going over the radio? What is going on here?
Right. So I remember bumping on this even as a kid, because the kind of Little League sports that you and I participated in, where mom and dad would give $10 to the Orchard Mesa Rec League so that we could play baseball or whatever.
Uh-huh. Yeah, exactly.
It wasn't like this. And I remember thinking, this is ridiculous. What's going on here? But this is, ladies and gentlemen, very real. In certain parts of the country, depending on the sport, depending on how intensely people take it, depending on how much people are thinking forward to their kid turning pro one day. It's funny because as you were describing the intro, I thought of two very, very different things. Stick with me here. One is the intro to The Fugitive, another movie we might talk about someday that has like a similar like dramatic music and the credits in dark blues and, you know, this dark scene and even kind of like disembodied voices giving us the story of what's happening, right? And then Captain Tsubasa, or as we knew it when we were kids, Tecmo Cup, which is a Japanese show And actually, it's been, I think, ported all over the world. And it is this kind of super dramatic little kids, and they're playing soccer, or football. And it too, right, the announcers oftentimes play a big role. And I will say, when you're doing a movie like this, having an announcer really helps with the kind of narration you need to give your audience the setup. That's why we have them on TV. They're great. They're a part of sports.
Right.
And so if you're going to do a sports movie, it really helps to have sports announcers, but it does actually make sense. So I remember as a little kid thinking, there's no way people will be calling these Pee-wee games. There are people out there doing that. And people out there taking it very seriously as they get even deeper into on the TV show.
Right. And I feel like you said, we did Little League here, and it was way not intense. But, soccer, I remember being pretty not intense. But when I got into band in high school, that I feel like got more intense.
Yeah.
Maybe not solo and ensemble, because I didn't care as much about that. But for the big competitions, like when we would go to Denver for some of those, or especially marching band, when we made finals and we got to march at Mile High Stadium, some of those got pretty intense. And I was never going to go pro in band or marching band or anything like that.
Yeah.
But I do wonder if it's as much because they're in Minnesota, or excuse me, in Minneapolis, right? They're in the state where it matters, and they're in a city where it really matters.
Right. And again, I think it's made more explicit in the show, where they show, the hyperactive parents who are really pushing their kids to try to become pro one day. But I've known people in my life who, when I asked, oh, you didn't play sports when you were, in school as a kid? And they said, well, my parents said, if I wasn't going to go pro in it, it was a big waste of time. And so I see this on both sides, the people who are way too intense about pushing their kids, and people who think, well, it's not even worth your time if all you're doing it is for recreation, where you and I were both like, no, this is the point. Have some fun, make some friends, grow a little, experience loss, experience winning, and all of those things are valuable. But I think this movie is actually much more subtle about that theme, but it's definitely there.
Yeah, and I do want to push the idea of doing, even if you're bad at it, doing it to do it. I was not great at baseball, and the point wasn't that I was going to go pro. And there were times when I was like, my teammates don't like me, I don't like this, I don't want to do this anymore. And mom and dad would say, well, you started the season, you really need to finish it out. And by the beginning of the next season, I wanted to do it again, up until I got to high school, when it got a little more intense for me, right?
Right.
I kind of bump on this because I'm like, nah, it's Pee-wee, nobody cares that much. But also knowing how intense some kids and parents can get about competition, or academics for that matter, right? Because I'm an AP teacher.
Sure.
And I want my kids to do well, but I also want them to have a good experience. And I tend to think of education as having a couple different end goals. There is the hoop you jump through to get the point, to get the score, to get the grade point average, whatever it is. But also there's the experience of, well, now I know how to do this thing. Or now I've had this experience. I've read these things. I've watched these movies. And even if, it doesn't matter to me that I know the Pythagorean theorem, at least I know it.
Right.
So, yeah, Gordon Bombay's got a chance to finish out the game and win it here. And he skates over to his coach. So now we got Coach Riley. Coach Riley, by the way, since he wasn't mentioned a moment ago, is played by Lane Smith. And I know Lane Smith from two things. One, he was the opposing lawyer in My Cousin Vinny. And two, he played the news director at the Daily Planet in the New Adventures of Lois and Superman.
Yeah, he was Perry
White.
Yeah, I remember that too. Yeah, good pull.
So he skates over to the coach, and coach says, "All right, Gordon, it's all up to you. I don't want to see any goats around after the game. You got it?" What does that mean, goats? Do you know?
Well, it's funny because these days when people use GOAT, they usually use it to mean greatest of all time. But it used to be if you were the GOAT, you were the one who got blamed for the loss or the bad. It was, they would bring out the Billy Goat. It's an old sports thing.
And he says, now you missed this shot. You're not just letting me down. You're letting your whole team down.
What?
This guy, what the hell?
what even in the world kind of, yeah, this is even worse than Charles Pennington, man. We were talking about fatherhood and leadership styles in the Ninja Turtles one. This is the worst so far. This is worse than the Shredder.
This guy's terrible. So Gordon goes to the line and he takes the penalty shot. The announcer even says, the 1973 championship now rests on the little shoulders of number 9, Gordon Bombay. And like, dude,
right, come on,
no,
man.
This is not okay.
Sports announcers do that crap all the time, and some of us have accepted that it's totally okay for adults who make a lot of money, and I go back and forth on that. Like, but you at least can understand it when a guy's going to go back to his mansion and people are doing like, this entire game comes down to right now, and then people, millions of people are angry at him on social media. But it is just a weird thing we do in sports. Like, whatever, man. Entire thing came down to the shoulders of one 9-year-old or however.
Well, and we're going to find out that no, it doesn't. But we'll talk about that when we get there, right? So he takes the shot, he hits the goalpost, it goes the other way, they don't win the game, and we close out this scene.
You know what this is, Iram? This is a villain origin story, and I didn't realize that until the most recent
Excellent. Very good.
watch through, because Gordon Bombay sucks.
Yeah, he's not a good dude here in the next scene, is he?
For the next several. Right? But you get part of the reason why as we go through it here. But yeah, when your authority figure puts that kind of thing on you when you're a kid, you might live with some complexes for a while.
So we cut scenes now, and we're in a courtroom. And Gordon Bombay, as played by Emilio Estevez, he's a criminal defense attorney, which I tend to think of as the societal good guys in a way. That's too simple, right? That's not. It's more nuanced than that. But in general, I feel like if you're protecting the little guy against the system, then you're usually on the right side of things. Besides, we need both sides argued so we have a clear idea of what happened and what should consequences be if necessary going forward. Does that sound fair?
Yeah.
On the other hand, what Gordon Bombay is a high-priced criminal defense lawyer, so he's not necessarily defending the little guy.
And this whole scene makes it clear that he doesn't really care about who did right or who did wrong or what the law says or what the spirit of the law is. He cares about winning. He cares about winning the case, and based on any kind of technicalities, he's going to game the system. Sort of reminds me of some things going on in our world right now. Just if I can move the right number to the right spot, I win, and that's all I care about.
We don't get the particulars of the case, right? But there's some back and forth. The judge calls them both up to the bench at one point, and Gordon does not do that. He goes to his client to pretend like he's talking to his client just to stick it to these guys.
Just a jerk.
And then he goes up to the judge and gets him to toss out this objection by saying, well, don't you remember that the appellate court knocked you down a peg or two, Judge, a while back? And do you really want that to happen again?
Right. So again, he's winning the case because he's embarrassing the judge, not because he's right. And the judge caves, and they have this great, showing us and telling us who Gordon Bombay is with this one exchange as he and the other lawyer leave the room. And he says, man, you really stooped to an all-new low on this one, Bombay. And Gordon says, I'm insulted, Frank. You have no idea how low I can stoop. God.
Yeah.
He's not even embarrassed by it. Like, he knows what he's doing. He doesn't care. He's obsessed with winning, which is maybe some repressed coachy issues.
Yeah, absolutely, right? Like, he can't let it go.
Yeah. So on his way back to his office, Gordon is a real jerk to his assistant, because good classic jerk guy stuff. Gets called into the boss's office, thinking he's about to get big congratulations on his big win. And Mr. Ducksworth, who owns the firm and has a phenomenal name.
Yes, he does.
That is very convenient for the film.
Excellently done.
He tells Gordon, score, don't spike. Which I think is an interesting phrase and an interesting metaphor for essentially saying, play with some sportsmanship, which we're going to get to, obviously, when we get to the actual sports. So, after getting slapped down a little bit by the big man, even though he was high in his own supply, Gordon decides to go drinking and driving? What even the hell kind of decision-making process is this as a lawyer? Like, even I know this guy's a jerk. I'm like, do I buy that this is how he deals with it? But, some of these
and it's
guys,
really obvious. Like, it's not like he went out drinking and then drove home. He's got an open container in his car and is drinking as he's driving. And I'm wondering if this is meant to be like, hey, kids, don't do this very specific thing right here.
And you know what? Fair enough, because I remember thinking that looks really stupid and dangerous as a kid. So maybe depicting it so cartoonishly brazen is a good way to get the point across to kids about how dangerous and stupid that is. I will say, as the cop pulls him over and they have their little exchange and you realize he's in a ton of trouble, I love the little joke he gives him when the cop realizes something's wrong and he says, breath, blood, or urine. And Gordon says, no thanks, I'm full.
That is pretty funny.
And gross. So then we go right back inside the same courtroom with the same lawyer and the same judge. And this is some silly movie, maybe even particularly Disney convenient stuff. It's like the next day, Gordon hasn't been able to shave. He looks a mess and he's representing himself in court for something that happened last night. Anyone who's ever been in a court of any kind knows that is not how that works, but whatever. We're having a movie here. Let's move things along. We don't have 12 weeks to wait for the painfully slow American justice system.
I do think it's funny that it looks like he hasn't changed clothes. He hasn't had a shower. I think that's a nice touch.
Yeah. And I love that the judge is so excited. I love his line. He says, to think I almost stayed home this morning.
Yeah, I love how excited the judge and the opposing lawyer are to take down Bombay. That's kind of funny.
Right. So they give him a hard time and basically, give him his own medicine back and say, we could let you off or we could make a deal here, but we're not going to because you wouldn't. And now we're giving it back to you. What do you think of that? And the guy even leans in and says, you got to go for the W, right, Gordo? That's you. That's you getting you. I also am just now wondering if Gordon Bombay is named Gordon Bombay having something to do with Gordon Gecko. Anyway, the Gordo thing. Anyway. So then we get the big setup scene, right? This is the inciting incident. Ducksworth has to come to Bombay's office late at night. He pretends like he's researching something else, and Ducksworth says, I thought maybe you were checking out the DUI and reckless endangerment charges. And so he knows that Gordon is in some trouble, and he starts going on about, I can find a loophole and all this stuff, and he says, no, we're not doing any of that. I'm going to rich white guy this thing. No one's going to know anything about this, and we're not going to drag the firm's name through the mud. He says that, right? He says you're going to get a probation, a suspension of your driver's license, and here's the most important part, 500 hours of community service and a leave of absence from the firm. And then he tells them, again, because we're all rich white guys here, I'm going to give you a car and a driver and keep you on salary. Like, gee, what the hell kind of...
For all that it is absolutely a privilege thing, Ducksworth absolutely does the right thing here.
Right.
He sees what Gordon is doing. He sees that path he's going down. He's like, look, man, you need a break. You are way too wrapped up in this stuff.
Right.
I can provide you this. I'm giving you the driver. I'm giving you the time. You're still going to be paid. And you're going to have to do a little community service. And he even says, look, the judge doesn't say that you have to take a leave of absence from the firm. I'm saying that.
Right.
And I feel like in this moment, I mean, you said missing the shot was Gordon's villain origin story. This is sort of the redemption arc story, right?
Right.
And I would like to applaud Mr. Ducksworth for this moment.
Yeah. We'll talk about him more later, but... Yeah, and he even says, the goal here is to teach you compassion and a sense of fair play and how to fit in with a team. So community service is going to be good for you. And hopefully you'll come back a better person and a better attorney. Like, yes, that's
That's great. Yes, absolutely.
Yes, people should think and talk that way. And then we get this smash cut to the real MVP of the movie, who sadly doesn't return in the sequels, the driver.
Right.
That he's been assigned. This great guy, large fella, big mustache. And the very first thing he says, you feel like you know this guy already if you know. Because, again, we open and he's just... Bombay's in the back in his fancy suit and all that or whatever. And the guy said, in the early 70s, I drove the tour bus for the Grand Funk Railroad.
Yeah. And in the early 70s, what Bombay was doing was missing that goal, right? So that just shows the age difference for one thing.
Right. And he's just going on about how awesome all that was. And it says, all the loud music damaged my hearing, but I got no regrets, except the 80s. This guy's great.
He is great. He doesn't get a lot to do in this movie. He's around a lot.
Yeah.
Later, he's going to be running the video camera, and he interacts with the kids, and the kids seem to like him. He's almost an assistant coach in a way, but he doesn't get a lot of things to say after this.
Totally.
So now we know about Gordon Bombay. We know his origin story. So let's cut to the kids, because this movie is as much about them as it is Gordon, I think. And we got 4 of them here. The 4 we have are Charlie Conway, Lester Averman, Paul Karp, and Peter Mark. Now, Charlie and Lester, I feel like I know better because they're in the next 2 movies, but Karp and Peter don't make it past this movie. And I think they're interesting characters. I think they've got something to do. But when you have a movie that is about a team of characters, some of those characters are going to get kind of lost in the shuffle, and I feel like Karp and Peter get lost in the shuffle.
Yeah, I agree. And though I like both characters.
I don't dislike this scene.
Oh, it's weird as hell.
But yeah.
There's no way anyone would purposely make it like this if they were making this movie today.
Right. I feel like the point of this scene is these guys are friends, and they're kind of screw-ups, and these are the things they get up to when they're not playing hockey. Right. So here's these goofy little kids. So what they do is they find an old discarded purse, and there's this stray dog, and they feed him a bunch of beans, and then they follow the dog until it poops, and then they put the poop in the purse, and then they put $1 bill sticking out of the purse and leave it on the side of the road. And you know how sometimes we talk about how places are characters of a sort? I don't feel like this town, this sort of suburb of Minneapolis, gets much of an arc. But it is worth noting that they're kind of in the rundown part of town. There's all this dirty snow everywhere, and the shops are obviously, they haven't had a fresh coat of paint recently. It's not terrible. It's not scuzzy. It's not the slums of Midgar or anything. But it is a little run down, right?
Yeah.
So they leave this purse on the side of the road, and some dude stops and grabs the purse, and the kids are all hiding and laughing, and the guy takes off with the purse, and then suddenly the car screeches to a halt, and there's this weird scream, and he throws the purse out because it's full of dog poop, because kids are gross, I guess.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So
again, I think you're right. The whole scene here, the whole purpose of this is to just let us know that these are goofy kids. These aren't necessarily the straight A, straight-laced students who are, always doing what they're supposed to. We, get the sense these are some rambunctious kids. Even if it's very silly. As the guy gets out of the car to chase them, and all of a sudden it goes into 3 times speed, and super silly, ridiculous music plays.
And then the guy slips and falls and hits his nuts in the classic 90s comedy trope. And he groans and the kids cheer. And then that's the end of that scene. And it never comes up again. It doesn't matter, except that it's this bonding scene between these 4 boys. Then we cut back to Bombay and the driver looking for the rink. I think it's funny that Bombay says, just look for a sign that says personal hell. And he describes how he hates kids and they're barely human. And then we cut to the kids, and they're on this outdoor rink, which is really interesting. I remember when I was a kid, all of our stuff was outdoor too, right? Because we played baseball and we played soccer. And so, of course, all our practices were on outdoor fields. And I guess it's winter here, so it makes sense that they're practicing outside. But whenever we see the other teams practicing, it's always inside, which I think is meant to underscore that dichotomy between the haves and the have-nots. And now we're going to get into parallels between Mighty Ducks and like Final Fantasy Tactics. And I think that's... I don't know that this movie is meant to be, hey, look, this is a movie about people who have and people who don't have, but a little bit it is.
Yeah, actually, I mean, I'll even go a step further and say we should have included this on our Empires versus Rebels episode, because I think we hit on it several times, and, you know, it's maybe never even said explicitly, but I think at least it's theme number 2 of the movie, you know. So we'll get back to all of that, but we pick up with the story, and we're back with Gordon. They're looking for the rink, and then it goes over. The kids are on the rink. They're out there kind of just shooting around or whatever, having a little bit of banter. And I really, really love this line. It's one of my favorite lines. It's a great way to introduce Goldberg, the goalie character, but it's also just hilarious when... first of all, we get Jesse. I love that Jesse says, "Come on, man, at least try and stop it. I'm getting tired of chasing the puck." Which again, when you grew up playing sports and you didn't have a bunch of stuff, having to chase after the ball or having to chase after the puck or whatever, it was one of the frustrating things that you had to put up with that the kids who had the better facilities didn't. And
yeah, if there's a wall back there, you don't have to go collect the puck every time.
Right. And Goldberg responds, "Hey, be careful, man. It almost hit me that time." And then Charlie, again, so we see Charlie again, who was a part of that group with the poop purse earlier. He says, "Goldberg, you're the goalie. It's supposed to hit you." And Goldberg says, "Does that sound stupid to anybody else?"
I gotta say, man, goalies are intense.
Right?
I don't want the puck to hit me. I never wanted to play goalie in soccer either.
Right. But I love it because it's funny, but it does also get to the root of, the kind of fear there. And we'll come back to this moment later. But I also just think it's funny that, doesn't anybody else think it's weird that my job is to jump in the way of the flying object? Like, and another thing worth noting here, and again, they don't really talk about it till later in the story, but if you're paying attention, you'll note that all of these kids are wearing different sized, like none of them have real pads, none of them have real jerseys. It's like all of their equipment is just barely serviceable, if that. Some of them are wearing like football shoulder pads.
Yeah, yeah. Some of the, in fact, I think all of the jerseys like have the names written on them.
Right, like in a permanent marker that mom did on the back or whatever.
Right, which would never have been allowed. Like when we were playing sports as kids, like, you have to have cleats. You have to have shin guards. You can't just be stuffing magazines in there. And the referees would have to check and make sure that your gear was good to go. Yeah.
So Gordon, I guess, trying to make a big impression on the kids or something, instructs the driver to take the limo out onto the ice.
Which is dumb. Do not ever drive on the ice. Are you out of your mind?
I mean, we'll get into that, but yeah. So it drives out there, and it's interesting because as it's pulling up and as they're getting out, we get this cross chatter among the kids, basically saying like they think this is a drug dealer, like they think someone's out here right, coming to sell them drugs, which is interesting.
Well, I mean, why else would some rich guy in a limo be driving out there to talk to a bunch of kids?
Right. And again, this is a great moment that doesn't feel preachy to me at all. Like they just have, I love that Jesse is the one that stands up as Gordon gets out of the car, and he gives him this great little space, as good as what is he, 11?
Yeah, I think they say 10 at one point, but they're in middle school, so it's got to be 11, 12 years old, I would think.
Yeah. And he says, "We ain't buying nothing. And I'm feeling generous today. So I'm going to let you get your sorry vanilla booty out of here before we be using your eyeballs as hockey pucks." I love that little, yes, let's go. We're not buying nothing. We don't want your drugs. Like, the whole thing is great. I love Jesse.
So Gordon's still on his little power trip here because nothing makes a person more powerful than intimidating middle schoolers.
Sure.
Says, thanks, bro, but I'm not going anywhere until I take care of business. And he reaches into his jacket, and now they think he's got a gun.
Right? These kids are like, clearly, like you were saying, these kids are from the streets, man. They're worried about drugs and guns and stuff. Like, these are young kids, too.
And I got to say, this scene plays differently for me now.
Yeah.
Because in 92, right, we hadn't had the Columbine shooting yet.
Sure.
And now I've been working in the same school for over a decade. I've been through lockdown drills, right? I've been through actual lockdowns. And it's terrifying not knowing what's going on. So I think I thought this was funny as a kid because obviously he doesn't have a gun and we know he's the coach. But watching it as an adult, I'm like, this is gross. Like, where's the door? There's no door to hide behind, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyway, it is a comedy after all, and he pulls out the roster. He starts reading the names off. They're laughing. I'm like, no way this guy's the coach. And he starts reading the names. Averman, Dave, Conway, Charlie. And then he says, look, here's the thing. I hate hockey and I don't like kids.
Yay, he said it. That's his mantra. Yay. It's a great line. I mean, F this dude, but I hate hockey and I don't like kids is a great way to introduce yourself to these kids who are trying to fall in love with hockey.
Right, yeah. They just want to get out of the house and play a game or two, and they got this slick back hair, drug-dealing white dude in a limo. And he even says, look, I'm sure this will be a real bonding experience, and maybe one of you one day will even write a book about it in jail. Like, dude!
It's a great bad guy line. Awful, but funny.
So then he asks them to just get out on the ice and show me what you can do. And Averman comes up and he says, just so you know, we really suck.
So then they get out there and immediately prove that they do, in fact, really suck. And it's that humorous line where Gordon, does the, I'll decide who sucks around here 5 seconds later. Oh, they really suck. And this is super hilarious. And I love Averman. I've always loved Averman. Everybody loves Averman. If you don't love Averman, I don't know what you're doing listening to this. And this is where he really starts to take over a starring role. The kid, the redhead of the group, clearly, if you were wondering who's the class clown, pulls off to the side as their practice is going on and starts doing commentary. Again, the importance of being able to have the commentary to let you know what's going on. And he's doing it like into the end of his hockey stick.
Right. Yeah. He wants to be the announcer.
Right. And I think it's both funny that one, he's just so disengaged with what they're doing that he feels it necessary to do this. But two, that this is actually a great way to, again, remind us of who all the kids are, who the characters are. We get the names again. Buck over to Jesse Rooney, the enforcer, like giving us a little bit about who they are. And then when he's goofing off enough and watching people, the one young lady on the team comes over and just shoves him right in the chest and knocks him over. And he says, oh, it's the Connie Meister, the Velvet Hammer.
Which is a great introduction.
Yeah. So now we know who Connie is. She's the Velvet Hammer. I get it.
That is an excellent way to make sure that characters don't get lost in the shuffle, right? Give them a defining trait. She's the girl on the team, but also she's got a nickname now.
Yeah. And then she gets one of my favorite lines in the movie, too. And I'm actually, as a sports person, really, really, really into her energy right here. Because she comes over, she's like the one person who's clearly outwardly just excited to be there. And she asks Gordon first, hey, did you play? And he says no, which is just a lie.
Liar.
And he asks her, so what is our record anyway? And she goes, 0-9, but one was pretty close, though. We only lost by 5, and we almost scored a goal, too.
Oh, man.
I love it. In this society where, and again, we'll get back to this a lot, where if you come in second place, that Ricky Bobby nonsense, if you're not first, you're last. And she's just happy that one time they only lost by 5, and they almost scored. They almost scored 1 goal. And she's proud of that.
Absolutely.
And Damn it. Yes. Come on.
I mean, our very own Colorado Rockies are having a pretty poor season, but didn't they just have a guy, a pitcher, pitch a whole game?
Right. Complete
And
game
that
shutout
never
at
happens.
Coors Field against the Los Angeles Dodgers. You've got to appreciate that, even if you, quote, suck.
Right, and going the other way, our other boys just won Lord Stanley's Cup, but that doesn't mean
Right.
Tampa Bay Lightning are losers. They won the
Right.
Cup the last 2 years.
Right.
So there's this weird nonsense in sports, and even in Little League sports. And I feel like our parents were pretty darn good about never doing this to us. But there are some parents, some kids for whom, if you're not first, you're a loser. And what
Yeah.
nonsense. So, yeah, I agree that Connie is just excited that they almost scored a goal is pretty great.
I love it. I love it. So then after a little bit of practicing, the kids gather around again, and Gordon's sort of asking, so what even happened to your last coach? And Peter, I feel like this is one of Peter's shining moments. He gets a more serious one later in the movie, but he says, he just yelled a lot, and that's how he hurt his arm. Gordon's like, what do you mean he hurt his arm? And Peter mimics it. He's like, yeah, he's like yelling at us like, you little bastards. They had that little kid say the word bastards in this movie, by the way, in this Disney movie anyway, I don't think you would do that today, but anyways, he's mimicking, where do you learn how to play? You suck, you skate, you little, and he starts grabbing at his arm, and Gordon goes, oh, we didn't hurt his arm, it was a heart attack. Great.
Yep.
Jeez.
Ugh.
And then he decides that he's going to get back into his limo, and he calls it his office. He says, if you go back, he says, you, and you against you, and you. And if you need me, I'll be in my office. And Goldberg says, we have names, you know. Gordon says, I'm sure you do, and I'll bet they're very nice names. I might even learn them.
What a prick. He's not
This
getting
guy.
any better, is he?
I told you, villain origin story. This guy sucks.
I really like this next scene. I think this is great because the kids are like, oh, I see. Well, there's more of us than there are of you. And they start climbing on the car and rocking it back and forth.
Again, this is a metaphor for the rebels over the Empire.
Yeah,
Storm
these kids are the
castle
Ewoks.
gates. Yeah.
The kids are the Ewoks in this moment. That's great.
Yeah. They storm the castle gates. They literally just get into the limo and start eating the candy and demanding things. They interrupt his phone call. I love that. They say, is that a real phone? And he says, yes, and I'm really on it.
Yeah, because this was the 90s, so there were no cell phones, but it was a car phone.
Right.
That's cool. That was the height of cool back in the day.
Yeah. So then the kids start, chanting that they want to ride, and again, they're overpowering. They're making their demands clear. They're chanting like any good protest does. We want to ride. We want to ride.
Absolutely.
Their goals are maybe not quite as lofty as some protests, but damn it, this is theirs. And I love that the driver turns around and says, I could kill one of them just to set an example, sir.
That is a good line. Having been a middle school teacher for a couple of years, that is an excellent line.
Gord says, not yet, Lewis, not yet. But, take him for a spin. And they start driving around on the ice and being ridiculous. And they do a 90s fart joke. Not that there aren't still fart jokes, but Goldberg and a thing. And everyone gets mad at Goldberg, but then as they're driving around, a new character enters the story as we see a very angry woman waving her arms at the limo, wondering, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah.
Back to your question.
Understandably.
So she makes the limo pull over and starts pulling everybody out and is screaming at Gordon, like, what are you doing? My son was in that car. The ice cracks, and Gordon gives her some hippy-dippy, well, I'm from here, and I know how ice works, and so it's going to be fine. And I love this line because she's kind of giving it to him, but it's also recognizing that this is a guy who has absolutely no concept of responsibility to others.
Right.
And I remember when I was a kid not liking Mom very much because she's always angry, but she is so completely 100% right here, and especially in this line which she says, well, listen, Mr. Zen Master, you may be in tune with Ice Universe, but when it comes to my kid, I just know doesn't cut it.
Yeah, that is one of those lines that sticks in my head. And I agree. At the time, Charlie's mom was like, "Oh, what a buzzkill, and why is he falling for her?" Blah 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 blah. But looking back, she is the responsible adult here. Even the driver, Luis, was like, I could kill one of them, sir. Blah blah blah.
You're right.
And she's the one saying, "No, these are kids. You are in a position of authority and responsibility here, Mr. Coach. You need to act like it."
So mom's breaking everything up, and practice is clearly in the end. In fact, Gordon even says, well, I guess practice is over.
Had to ruin the fun, adults.
He's such a child.
He is.
Yeah. And then Charlie, says, hey, coach, you going to be at the game tomorrow? And I love this line. Gordon says, by order of the state of Minnesota? Yeah. He just, in everything he says, he can't stop being an asshole.
Right, yeah. And we don't see a lot of parents in this movie. We get Charlie's mom and we get the Hall brothers' dad. And there are other people in the stands who I assume have to be parents, but they're not really part of the movie.
Right.
So I like that she's getting everybody out of the car, not just Charlie. Right?
Yeah.
So her primary concern is her own kid, but also she's probably known a lot of these kids for a long time.
Yeah. It's like Lorelai in the show. That's going to confuse some people, but I'm leaving it in. Lorelai is the name of the Gilmore Girl played by the actor who is also the mom in Game Changers.
Oh, that lady. I liked her a lot in that.
She's phenomenal. Oh, she's so good.
The whole show's great. All right.
So then we get the smash cut to the game tomorrow, right? Now, Gordon's back at a place where he used to play Pee Wee hockey, and he's looking around, and it's the team that he played on, and all the people are chanting Hawks, 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 and he's looking up and he's seeing all the pennants in the rafters. And then we see like the first introspective moment from him as an adult, where he says the Hawks. My first game, and it had to be the Hawks. And of course, because it's a movie and stuff, I actually love the way this is filmed. Like, he's in his own moment. It's totally focused on Emilio Estevez. And then out of focus in the background, his old coach Riley comes walking through. And you don't necessarily see, it could be anybody walking through a glass door, but once he comes through the other side of it, it focuses in on him. And he says, Gordon? Gordon Bombay. And it's, oh man, anyone who's ever had a falling out with somebody... and you fear that moment when you see them again, it feels like this, right? This is the thing we don't want. This like, and they're being all, oh, it's great to see you. And it's like, really? You haunt my nightmares. You were the reason I became the prick that I am today.
And I really like the dressing of this scene because they show all those championship pennants. Right, and they're all black because the Hawks color is black, and the Hawks logo is this real intense looking, mean looking hawk that is sort of a hallmark of '90s sports logos, and it's going to be contrasted later with the Ducks logo, which is just goofy looking, right?
Right.
But okay, we've already talked about two other Colorado teams. So the Denver Broncos used to have a much more kind of innocuous rearing horse logo, and now it's this intense swooping horse that's growling or something, and its eyes are real squinty. And so so there's all these black pennants, and then the one from '73 that's yellow, that's second place.
Yeah.
And Gordon explains he's here to coach District 5, and Coach Riley's like, really, you got a kid on the team or something? Because that sucks.
Yeah. Right? Why would you want to coach that team, man?
And he explains, I need to be of service to the community, which is a hilarious line.
It is.
So then, like you said, this is the confrontation you don't want because Coach Riley looks at it also and he says, I really wish they'd take that one down,
Yeah. Again, and I think this is the number one theme of the movie, right? Which is this win at all cost. Winning matters more than having fun or being a decent human. That sucks. That mentality sucks. That crap of like, take it down. I'm embarrassed by second place. It's like, come on. And that is basically, spoilers for anyone who doesn't know how the Mighty Ducks goes. But that's the lesson that Gordon Bombay has to learn throughout the movie, right? Is that being embarrassed by coming in second place is nonsense.
We also get introduced to a character before we're introduced to him, because Gordon asks, so who's your hot shot this year?
Yeah.
And Coach Riley says, well, we got a kid named Banks. Might go all the way. Not quite as good as you were, but he wants it more. Oh, come on.
No, again, when I remember as a kid thinking, no way someone would say that this is how sports people talk, man. The number of times I've heard stuff like this. That guy's more talented, but that guy cares more. This guy has the heart of a bulldog, and that guy is lazy. It's like, you don't know these people. And this particular one is a child. And so, yeah, and to say that, Gordon gave up or Gordon quit, he didn't want it as much, this mentality that if you don't respond to being pushed by your coach, that means that you're a quitter when, I'm not going to get too deep into this story, but anyone who's curious can Google Zach Greinke, a pitcher who is going to be in the Hall of Fame one day, who deals with all kinds of anxieties and almost quit baseball a number of times because of stuff like this. Because he just doesn't respond to being talked to like that. And sports shouldn't only be for people who respond to, then we get the flashback. We see it again. This scene where when he was a little kid and coach says, it's up to you, Gordon. You missed this shot. You're not. Instead of saying, no matter what happens, we're proud of you. He's saying, you're letting me down. You're letting your whole team down if you miss this shot. Because he's so obsessed with winning, he can't realize that for a little kid, really for anybody, what should matter more is that you're proud of your performance. That you gave it your all. And just as a person who works in sports now and sees the really ugly sides of it, like, this stuff resonates much more deeply, I think, even than it did with me when I was a kid.
And we get a little more backstory here, too, because we didn't know this part before. He says, Coach Riley, in the flashback, I wish your dad could be here to see this. Make him proud of you. So something has happened to Gordon's dad.
Yeah.
Back in 73.
Yeah. They're starting to plant the seeds for all of that as well. You're right.
All right. So we get some, the teams are warming up. The Hawks do the classic 80s bully thing of coming up to the opposing team and saying, hi, girls. So, again, girls are weak and are not allowed to play sports, I guess. Cause, and it's the bad guys saying it. So, we know we're not supposed to agree with that. And especially because we got a girl on our team. Right.
And they don't. And there are several people of color. I don't know that I mentioned earlier that Jesse and Terry Hall are black.
Right.
Peter is Hispanic of some kind, I think. I'm not 100% sure. It's probably not good to guess at things, but there are plenty of non-white people on the District 5, later to be Ducks, and the Hawks are just like the whitest white boys you can find with the blondest blonde hair.
And they've all got the same haircut, right? When we talk about Rebels versus Empire, the Empire tends to conform, and the Rebels tend not to. Right? So, having girls on the team, having black and brown kids on the team, it doesn't mean nothing. And I love that, just to drive it home, that the cheer the Hawks do before to get themselves amped up before they play the game is win, 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 win. Like, what the hell?
And super creative, right? I love when Gordon tries to get his kids to do the same thing, and they just look at him like he's nuts. Particularly Averman. I noticed in this one, Averman is just laughing at him. It's like, brutal, man. Tough. Kids, as you well know.
Oh, yeah.
When they cut true, kids cut deep.
Oh, yeah. Because there's no filter there. So they let you have it. They don't mean anything by it necessarily. Like, they don't mean anything. There's no ulterior motive. Right? It's just the truth as they see it. And sometimes that hurts the most.
Yeah.
So there is a neat cinematic thing they do when they do the puck drop, where they point the camera at the ice, air quotes, but it's like a polished mirror or something, because then when it cuts back to the players playing, it's obviously not that shiny, but it's a neat thing to do to have that reflection.
Yeah.
So the Hawks line comes up to the center of ice, the center ice, excuse me. Got to get my hockey terms right. And the District 5 line comes up to meet him, and one of the white boys on the Hawks line says, "What is this, the Oreo line?" Now, to be clear, I did not get this as a kid, but a couple things
I didn't
here.
either.
Oreo can be used as a slur against black people. Black on the outside, white on the inside.
Right.
Being that, physically a black person, but culturally a white person maybe, which is gross and awful.
Right.
And I think in this context is meant to be black people don't play hockey. But black people should absolutely play hockey if they want to, and especially kids, because it's pee-wee.
Right. Right. So yeah, it's a really gross thing that they do here. I think it's interesting that later on they reappropriate it.
Yeah, they absolutely take it, because it's all. So there's a second layer here, because Jesse and Terry Hall, the two black kids on the team, are on either side of Guy Germain, a white kid on the team whose name we haven't said yet.
Right.
Most notable, I think, for being Connie's boyfriend.
Totally. 100%. I think that's why he's there, right?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's, two black kids on either side of a white kid, the Oreo line. I think it is as close to a slur as you can get in a 90s movie.
Right.
Because the sentiment I understood. Like, oh, they're insulting our guys again. I did not realize that it was a racist.
A racial thing. Yeah.
And so it's smart, but it's subtle, and it just gets to the point of don't be a bully. Just don't.
Yeah. And then as the game begins, we get more fantastic Averman, because he's obviously not good enough to start on this team. He's on the bench. Good Lord. How bad is Averman at hockey? And he's doing the baseball thing. He's going, bada 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 swing bada bada bada.
Good
He's just
Lord.
going on and on right next to Bombay, who's remember hated his existence this entire movie, and he's like, isn't he like chewing on Tylenol and stuff?
Oh yeah, it's some kind of, maybe it's an antacid, I don't know, but he's chewing pills the whole time.
Yeah. And then he cuts him off and he says, Averman, it's hockey. There's no batter. Idiot. And so Averman says, gully gully, gully gully, gully gully gully, save gully gully, gully.
Yeah.
You can't
So
tell
good.
kids, man. You beaten again. Bested by the child once more, Gordon Bombay.
Anytime you engage in a conflict with a middle schooler, you have already lost. Don't do it.
And I buy that he's that clever, too.
Oh, sure, absolutely.
Like, that's clearly his thing. That's what he's there for. So then we just get highlights of the Hawks absolutely destroying District 5.
Yeah. Yeah, and Coach Riley's like, yeah, let's run it up, which is a big no-no in Little League sports. Like, you win, you play to win, but you don't run it up to embarrass the other kids.
Yeah.
Like, that's not the point. Even if we leave aside it stuns me how competitive they are, Little League sports is as much about teaching kids as it is about the competition, right? So you teach kids sportsmanship, and one of those things is, in a situation like this, where we're not pros, you don't run up the score.
Right.
And he keeps, popping his collar at Gordon, too, which is weird.
Yeah, it just really being... So it's clearly getting under Gordon's skin now, where he hasn't really cared to this point, but now he's pissed, because he feels like, I guess, that he's getting embarrassed.
Right, well, he hasn't lost in a long time.
Right, good point. So during, one of the timeouts, he just starts screaming at the kids, get the rebounds, get your heads up, get the loose pucks, and then the whistle blows. He says, just get the hell out of here. I'm like, dude.
Ooh, yeah, don't. Ugh.
What is your problem? Well, we know, and we're going to get into what his problem is. That's right. That's what this is all about.
So Charlie gets a breakaway at one point, and he's flying down the ice, and he's looking great, and Gordon gets excited, and one of the kids says, he'll screw up. And, yeah, Charlie takes a swing, and he misses it, and, he misses the puck entirely.
Right. just whiffs on it. And This is another one of those, what a horrible thing to say, and you should be hit in the mouth for saying it. At the same time, this is excellent writing, and if he was saying it to an opposing player who was an adult on another team, this would be fantastic trash talk. He's saying it to a child, so Gordon Bombay can, eat my hat, but he says, "Hey, nice fan, Charlie. Keep swinging. Maybe you'll give him a cold."
That is not okay, but it is pretty funny.
Right. I feel like that's Gordon Bombay's entire character at this point. Not okay, but pretty funny. And then we get another one of those where, again, we see Coach Riley, like you were talking about, saying, against this team, we should have twice as many. Run up the score. And then they do the mantra of the bad guys, right? The thing the bad guys say. And as he starts saying it, then the whole team says it. But the best part is the edit at the end, where it goes back and we see Gordon Bombay just lip the final part of it. And of course the saying is, remember, it's not worth winning if you can't win big.
So these guys don't even care if they're first. Like if they're first by one, is that not good enough?
Not even enough to win. Not even enough just to win. You have to embarrass your opponent. And I do feel like this is, you can see in Gordon's eyes as he kind of shakes his head, he's realizing like, I believed that, and maybe up until like 5 minutes ago. And I've never been on the other side of it before. And it's just like, damn, man. Damn. That's good stuff. That's good thematic storytelling. Even if the bad guys are a bit cartoonishly bad.
Right. I do like that we get a whole run of Goldberg like getting out of the way of the puck.
Just moving. Just like, you know what? Just take the goal. I don't even care. Go ahead.
Because it will matter to his arc later. So I like that a lot.
Right.
And Riley doesn't let off. Even after the third period, they've won like 20-0 or something. Yeah. And he's like, that was a lousy third period. Anybody could beat these pansies. You got to stay hungry out there, which is some more sports talk nonsense. Stay hungry out there. What does that mean?
Yeah. Stuff they say.
But he goes out of his way to praise Adam Banks, his hot shot player.
Yeah.
Which both, like, it elevates Banks in the eyes of himself and everybody else there, right? Like, everybody else is not hungry enough, but Banks, nice going.
But it also shows how hyper-focused he is on this idea. Like, when he says to Gordon, Banks, he could go all the way. Like, that's what he's focused on. If there's one of these guys who maybe could make it to the NHL one day, then that's what matters. And everyone else should just be trying to get on his level or you're going to flame out at some point. And it's that hyper-focus on going all the way. Just ridiculous, especially considering how extraordinarily difficult it is to make it to the NHL or NFL or NBA or what have you.
Right. So do you think that Coach Riley is one of those guys who, whenever one of his former kids does make it to the pros, is like, oh yeah, I taught him everything. That's 100%. My glory.
Yep. Taught him everything he knows. Yep. And then we get another one of my favorite scenes and another great Jesse moment. As Gordon, again, he's screaming at the kids after the game. You know, you didn't listen to anything I said. I told you to keep your heads up and you put your heads down. I said, hustle, you went slower, which, again, that's not how coaching works, but we're going to get back to that. You just tell people what to do. It's not how teaching, that's not how coaching works. But he's just screaming, and he ends this whole tirade, and he's clearly, like, in his voice, you can hear he's not even there. He's not yelling at the kids. He's yelling at Coach Riley.
Right.
You know?
Good.
And he says, why the hell won't you just listen to me? And Jesse stands up first. And he puts his stuff down and he says, why the hell should we?
Yeah. This is, again, going back to having taught middle school for a couple of years, why should we? Why should we care how to, what a coordinating conjunction is? Right? Why should we care to write this essay? Why am I reading this book? Why do I need to learn this, that, or the other? And I have found, I'm a high school teacher now. I haven't been a regular classroom teacher for over a decade now. But even when I'm teaching like AP Research, which is a small group, I think it is very important to start with why. Right? There's a part of taking an AP class that is getting the AP score. So how do we do that? How do we achieve that goal? But there's also the part of, why are we taking AP Research at all? Why is it interesting to know what what a research method is, how to craft a research question, how to do a literature review, how to put together a paper that is of interest not only to the people who are going to read it and grade it, but to you who's going to do this all year. Why should we is very important, and I think it is the first question every teacher should address at the beginning of the class. This is why we're doing these things. This is what I want you to know and be able to do. Here's how we're going to get there, and if it's not working for you, we need to figure out what to try next. And Gordon has done none of that.
And I think secondarily to that, there's this idea that all adults just deserve respect.
Ugh.
Right? And especially when you're a kid, it sort of feels like you just have to do whatever the adult says. And so I love this moment for Jesse because he's standing up for himself. He's standing up for his friends and his teammates. But he's also recognizing that truth of like, no, respect has to be earned. Like, you have done nothing but treat us. And the first thing you said was, I hate hockey, I don't like kids. You don't respect us. Why should we respect you? That word respect is a two-way street. And that is what Jesse is establishing here. And there's not a lot of, if we want to put this in the category of children's lit or family-friendly stuff you can or maybe should watch with your kids or is aimed at or good for, there's not a lot of it that I think gets at that. You know, the fallibility of adults and the responsibility of adults to have respect for the kids if they're going to ask those kids to have respect for them.
Averman, ever the class clown, as you pointed out, does get a really excellent part here where he's laughing about something and Gordon says, oh, you think this is funny? You think losing is funny? And Averman says, well, not at first, but once you get the hang of it.
Again, that goes back to Connie's we almost scored a goal. Like, I love that so much. And not to editorialize about my own stuff too much, but having watched the Rockies for 30 years and having covered them now for 10, it's like you do kind of at some point start to laugh at the difficulty, the sort of futility. Like, sports are hard, and the other teams are oftentimes better.
Yeah, and
you're going to lose.
These kids knew they were going to get creamed by the Hawks, and they showed up anyway.
Yeah.
Even Goldberg, who does not want to be a goalie and does not have the proper pads, showed up. He got out of the way, but he showed up.
Right.
The only reason Gordon here is because, by order of the state of
Minnesota. 100%. And then, as Gordon is leaving the rink, he sees Obi-Wan Kenobi in the desert.
Yeah. This is great.
Something.
Like,
yeah.
Gordon, there is no turnaround for Gordon. Just because Ducksworth said, you got to go do this, doesn't mean he's going to have his hero turn. He needed the mentor character to show up.
Yeah.